Death and life in the power of the tongue.
Speak life.
Death and life in the power of the tongue.
Speak life.
Death and life in the power of the tongue. Live your life, love Christ, do your best to
Speak life.
Death and life in the power of the tongue.
Speak life.
Death and life in the power of the tongue.
Speak life.
Death and life in the power of the tongue. Live your life, love Christ, do your best to
Speak life.
Right. Welcome to the Speak Life podcast. This is your host, the one and only Shika. We are so excited that you're here with us today. Today, I have three guests with me, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So whoever want to start first, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Blair, super mom of 3 toddlers.
Hi, my name is Farah, and I am a mom of 2 boys, 12 and 5.
And I am Satya, mom of 5, 3 of which are boys, young men.
Yes, love it. So before we get started, these are my sisters. So Satya is my sister-in-law, Farah is my sister, and Karian is my sister. So we're all family on this episode. So we're going to do it. All right. So the topic for today is the challenges of raising boys. Ooh. All right. So the first question that I have for y'all, what are the ages of your son? I know Farah kind of gave it before, but so I'll go. My oldest, Elisha, is 13, going to be 14 in June, and Timothy just turned 11 in December.
So my boys, Jazz is 5. He'll be 6 in October. Jay is 4. He'll be 5 in November. And then the baby is 1 year and 5 months.
So your house is just busy.
Very busy. Very busy. My oldest son is actually 21.
Whoa.
The next one is about to be 18. And my youngest son is just turned 16.
Whoa.
So I have teenagers.
Yeah. So So we have a lot of different, age range on here.
Ranges, yeah.
Exactly. So before I even go into another question, I want to say that, Satya and we live in Massachusetts, Farah lives in Florida, and Carrie, she's all the way in Jamaica. So it's like, we're getting it all right here. So, all right, the next question. What are some of the challenges that comes with raising boys that you see?
When you speak of challenges, you refer to like the challenges that I have are
in general.
Oh, general. Okay, so the noise level is number 1. It doesn't stop. I am not one to be a noisy person. I'm not loud, but they're so loud. And every minute I'm like, stop the shouting, stop the running. The noise level is my biggest challenge. And they don't listen. They're boys, and if he says stop the running, if they jump off somewhere, he says stop, they're doing it again. After they finish crying, they're doing it again. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's my biggest challenge, the noise level.
For me, the biggest challenge that I have right now I think it's the era that we're in and the age, is the computer, the phone, the gaming. It's nonstop. Every day, all day, I don't know what to do. Sometimes I try not, I understand that it's as I said, the era that we're in, and I try to be understanding and, let him have time to talk to his friends, but it's very hard to gauge, when it's too much. So that's one of the biggest challenges I have right now.
Well, for me, it's around some of the same things that you guys have. The noise, boys never stop. They're always loud. It's going to last forever. And then another one of my challenges is just like for my oldest, it's like how is he being portrayed outside of the home, and what is he gonna get into? Not just being like an older, well, a young black male, especially here in Boston. And then for my second oldest, there's so many challenges because we're fighting against school, making sure your schoolwork is getting done because they're remote, and uh, he needs to be an in-person type of learner. He needs to be he's a hands-on, a tactile learner, and trying to do all of this through technology, which just doesn't work for him. And then my youngest son, he's like, I'm all for the technology, but like you said, it's balancing the time he's on that internet doing work and that time where he's playing games and trying to find the right balance for it. So those are some of the challenges that I know I'm going through, similar to what you guys are going through.
Wow. So for me, like I can't really talk about the noise level because my boys are not loud. I mean, when they were younger, they were pretty loud, but as they get older, it's kind of like they kind of mellowing out with the loudness. But one of my biggest challenge with them is like Elisha is a teenager and I've never walked this road before. So it's my first time ever. And I'm just like, I don't really know, like there's times when he don't want to talk. And I'm like, okay, I need you to talk. Like, I need to know what's going on with you. Because I could tell that he has a lot going on in his mind but he won't talk. So I don't know what it is that's going on. And now he's in this stage where it's like, girls, like, okay, what's going on? Like, and secretively, like I'll go through like his emails and stuff or his phone and I look and I'm like, okay, like you have all these girls sending you pictures and I'm like, and you act like you can't even do nothing when you're at home. Like I could never tell that you have a girl that's sending you pictures because of the fact that like you're so quiet. I'm like, if it was like Timothy, my 11-year-old, he's a little bit more outspoken and open, but Elisha is very kind of like mellow. So, he's into the girls. And for me, I'm like, I know how it is, especially in the time that we're living in where, I'm trying to teach him or, his dad trying to teach him like, listen, when it comes to girls, you don't touch them here. You don't say certain things. You don't ask them certain questions because, these are stuff that you could get in trouble for. So just to teach him the right way and the right things to do when it comes to a girl that he likes. And now with Timothy, he's a little bit more different where, he's into like the gaming and don't want to do any chores around the house. And I find myself, okay, I'm going to give you guys allowance and stuff. But the allowance, when he gets it, is like they forget that they got to do the work. So it's just that constant like reminding them like, okay, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you to like focus on, I can't say as far as school, I don't have any challenge with that, but for the older one, it's more so around girls and liking girls, which is okay. I want him to like girls, but I just trying to teach him like the right things to say, the right things to do. And when you're around them, like, you don't touch them here, you don't do this, you don't touch and feel like, oh, I'm just playing around. Like, you have to be careful. So those are the challenges that I have as far as raising boys. My other challenge that I face is when they go out there, like when they're away from me. Like I don't know what to expect. I'm trying to teach them like, listen, this is how you act when you're on the street. The friends that you should keep, because at the end of the day, your friends could either bring out the best in you or bring out the worst in you. And then because of that, that could lead to a whole lot of problems or lead to no problems. So the friends that he should keep, that's another thing that because like I said, I go through his phone and I'll see friends and the stuff that they're talking about. And I'm like, I don't think you should be keeping this person as a friend. But then it doesn't matter what you tell them, they're going to do whatever they want to do either way. So These are some of the challenges that I face at this point. So, all right, the next question. So, what are your dreams for your sons? What are some of the dreams that you have for your sons?
Well, for me, the biggest one is that they'll grow knowing that ultimately God is to be served, and that above everything else is should be the most important person in their lives. So growing up in church should not be about, just going to church because your parents are going to church, but we try to instill in them that God is the one that provides all for you. So it's not just us going out to work and all of that, but God is the one who gave us the strength to provide for them. So in everything, they should have Him at the forefront of everything they're doing. They're young because 5 and 4, they don't really understand fully, but we try to still instill that in them, that they will grow with it to know that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to just go to church because my parents are asking me or telling me to go to church, or because I can't stay in my parents. Because a lot of times we see where persons coming from Christian homes, when they become an adult, they act the worst ways because they were basically forced to be, partakers in whatever is going on in church. So I don't want that for them. So my dream for them is that they will grow to love God for who He is, and to really appreciate the life that we try to provide for them, and not be ungrateful boys. Grow to treat women with respect. Grow to really be outstanding men in society.
One of the dream, the as Carrie had mentioned, um, I want them to be able to appreciate the things that they have in life. Um, I try to, instill in them from at a young age, try to explain basically where we are in life, where we want to be. The one of the dreams I have for them is that I want them to be able to figure out what they want in life and go for it. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. Figure out the next thing, figure, okay, so if this doesn't work, what else do I want to do? I don't want to hold them to one thing. I don't want to say you have to do this or you have to do that. You have to become a doctor or lawyer. Whatever it is that you desire, I want you to go after it 100%. That's one of the biggest things that I have, like that I try to instill in them from a early age. Just go for it, for whatever you want. Just go after it.
Same here, same exact thing. Like I have expectations for them, but I know that they have their own expectations for themselves. So what I try to instill is in them is that they're well rounded, that they're respectful, that when they go out into the world, they have those same equitable opportunities and experiences as some of their peers may have, or maybe some of their peers may not have. But if they put their best foot forward and they try and they try and they get where they want, then that's great. And like you said, Sarah, if they don't get what they want, try again. I mean, I've had that personally with my oldest son. He went to school. At first, he thought he wanted to be an engineer. He tried a year doing college trying to be an engineer, and he found out that he didn't want to do that. So I asked him, I said, "So what do you want to be?" And he's like, "I don't know." I said, "All right, then go back and just do general studies until you figure that out." Because he was just so disappointed with himself because of my expectations for him. Like, you have to go to school, you have to be this, you have to be that, because automatically you're, sorry to say this, but you're a male, and because of your color, people always assume that you can only be certain things, even in this state, even in this, right now in this culture. But I want to make sure that at least you have this under your belt. That's my expectation. So making sure that they have their education under their belt and they're doing something positive to, help in society as a whole. And so because of these things that I've instilled in him, he was like, all right, I'm going to go back. Because at first he was like, I don't want to go to school. I said, but I want you to at least get a degree in something. And then if you get that degree, you can go on and do whatever else you want. But I want you to have a degree because I need you to always have a backup plan. Because at the end of the day, something may happen with what you're starting to do, but you need to have something to back yourself up so that you're successful. And I ask that of all of my children, especially my sons. I'm like, at the end of the day, get your education. That's one of my biggest expectations. Get your education, because at the end of the day, your life can be taken, anything can be taken, but what you know can never be taken away from you. Never. So get your education and get as much of it as you can, so you can survive out in this world, because it's all about what you know and who you know.
Yep. Wow. I love all of that. So for me, one of my dreams for my boys are, is for them, like, education is everything, and knowing God and trusting God and just having a relationship with God is everything. And another thing that Satia said is that once you have your education, no one can take that away from you. Another dream that I have for them is to know that, like, listen, be a leader. And if you're a leader, you can go far in life. Like, you can say, like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you will get it done. I'm not saying you can't be a follower, but be a follower of the right things. But be a leader to know, like, okay, headstrong, like, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to go after. I kind of lost my train of thought. I wanted to say something and then I kind of forgot. But one of the things that like Kenneth always tells them is that this world is very unforgiving, and you can make one mistake, and that one mistake will have you down for the rest of your life. Because especially if it's something on like a record, or you have to, like, if you get arrested or something like that, like, that will hold you down. And even though what you do, you could did it for like, or do it like when you was say 13, it's always going to be there. And because the Tia touched on it, like, because of your skin color, and because the fact that, you're who you are, like, you can't change who you are. You can't change the fact that you're Black and you're male in America. So with that, it's like you're always going to have one step lower, or you're always going to be one step below the other average male person, So because of that, it's like you just have to know who you are, and just know that because of who you are, you have to work twice or triple harder than someone, exactly. So yep. So those are like one of the things that I have for my boys. Just knowing that with God first, you can do anything. And for people who may not have that Christian background, it's like you just have to follow your dreams. Like, what is your dream? What do you want to be in life? You could be anything that you want to be. I was happy when Barack Obama became president, because that showed our boys, like, listen, if you want to be the president of the United States, you can. You just have to have your head on your body, but just know that you're going to work harder for what you want. So I still didn't remember what it is that I wanted to say, just like went whoop, out of my
another point, like, while we're talking about that, something that I wanted to, like, mention also. I was listening to and just to the point of our boys being at a disadvantage, I was listening to a podcast with this gentleman, this guy who wrote this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he was talking about in the certain communities, Black communities, speaking for our community, we as parents, we try to protect the children as it relates to if we're having any difficulties in our lives, financially, certain things, like, I'm not saying that you should argue in front of the kids, but healthy conversations. We tend to shy away from talking about stuff like that with our kids, especially the boys. And then when they reach a certain age, they're not prepared.
Yes.
Because all growing up, their parents were struggling in certain things, but the parents hit it so good. So they thought everything was this easy and everything came by easy because their parents didn't struggle, because they didn't see the struggle. What he was saying is that have certain conversations with them. You can break it down to their level. You don't have to tell them full. Break it down to their level, whatever age they are, so that they have an understanding. Where does money come from? How does how is the household run? How food comes in the house and stuff like that. So that once they reach a certain age, they'll have that general knowledge, of being a provider, or how they go about living their life. Because we, start to give them information from a young age. They're not going to teach these things in schools, so you just have to start building them up from a young age, so that their adulthood is not like a shocker to them, like, what is this you're talking about? So that's something also that we as mothers should try to, as a part of the nurture of our kids, try to do as well.
Yeah, I love that, because I know for us, like for me as a mother, I sometimes Timothy will be like, "Mommy, can I have this? Can I?" It doesn't matter how often we go to the store, like he always wants something. And I said to him, I'm like, "Listen, it's not that I can't buy it for you, but it's not every time you see something, you're gonna get it." And it's just like, and I'm like, it's a life lesson. Like, yes, I have the money that I can buy it. Whenever we go to the store, whatever you want, I could always say, okay, I could buy it, I could charge it, I could do whatever. But guess what? What am I teaching you? Yeah. What if one day I can't charge? What if one day I can't buy it with like cash? Then what's gonna happen? So, and again, like I let them know, they have a tendency of like, just once you go grocery shopping, it's like, whoa, Christmas is here. Like, I'm gonna eat everything. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, listen, I gotta work. I gotta buy this food. Like, I understand that we're going grocery shopping every week and there's always food in the house. But listen, I could, like, you don't have to eat everything off. Like, you could save something for tomorrow. I'm like, when you have your kids and stuff, you're gonna understand, like, no, you gotta take your time. And you're not starving, so don't eat just because, and stuff like that. But you have to break it, and I like that, the podcast that you listen to talked about, like, bills and all of that stuff, because that's something I said to Kenny one day. I'm like, we should sit down with them and let them know how much the mortgage is, how much the light, that every time they're down playing, they left the light on, how much the heat is at. One day I was upstairs and I'm like, why am I sweating? The heat was at 85. Like, are you serious? This is bills. We gotta work and pay for it. So they need to learn those things. So, so I definitely agree with that.
I did that. One day I took my son with me, the one that always is running in that kitchen to get everything out the cabinet. I said, come on, let's go shopping. He goes, Mom, you got paid today? I'm like, yeah, I got paid today. Let's go shopping. And at the time he had a job. So I said, how much did you get paid today? He goes, oh, I got such and such. I was like, okay, so let's go shopping. So I went and I put the groceries and things. He was like, oh, I want this, I want that. I said, okay, let's put it in there. Let's put it in there. And I put it in the cart and I said, oh, you're paying for groceries today. He goes, but I only got this much. I said, yeah, I know. I said, and this is how much I have. He was like, but I can't afford that. I said, exactly. That's the point. You can't afford this, but you want all of these things. And he was like, so how do you, but that's what you're supposed to do because you're my mother. And I said, that's what I choose to do because I'm your mother. I don't have to buy all of these things that you want. I buy all of these. I can just buy the things that you need. It's not necessarily about what you want, because in life, you're not always going to get what you want. You'll get what you need, but you're not always going to get what you want. After that, he slowed down.
That's what I should do. That's what I should
She slowed
do.
down a whole lot.
And that's gonna stay with him. That's gonna stay with him into all of his way to adulthood, because he's always gonna remember that time when he really realized that it's not as I thought it was. That's gonna stay with him.
Exactly. And then my son that likes to throw the teenagers. I don't know what it is. When they get teenagers, they just lose their mind. So he's the one that puts on clothes and is like, I don't like it, and throws it on the floor. I took him to the laundry with me. And then he was like, how much does this cost? I was like, let's do laundry. Come on, let's do laundry. And he paid for he was like, he spent all of that money on it. I said, but we're not finished. We still have to fold these clothes and we got to put them away. And after that, he stopped throwing his clothes on the floor, and he stopped, just coming in the morning, taking them off. He started to realize, like, there's a lot of work that goes into this that my mother does, but they don't see it, and they don't, like you said, they don't realize it because they don't see it, because we just, as mothers, we automatically make sure that things are done. As parents, we do it. I mean, even the fathers do it too, but as mothers, they always come to us, Mommy, Mom, can we do this? Mom, do you have this? Mom. They go to their fathers, but it's always on us as mothers.
Yep, it's true. Like I told Timothy one day, I'm like, if you don't stop calling me, like your dad is right there. You left all the way from him sitting next to you and come all the way upstairs and asking me for something. Like, why? I'm tired. So yeah, All right, so this next question is, what age should you have the sex talk? If your child is at the age and the appropriate age, like, what age should you have the sex talk, and why?
Okay, so for me, my husband said that his dad had the sex talk with him when he was 7. So that's the age when he'll start with my son. So I guess it was already set out for me. Yes.
But okay, so
I don't know what to say about this, because I didn't grow up with brothers, so I have no idea what that age is supposed to be. But I believe when my son was 10, I attempted to have the conversation, and he shut me down with the quickness. He wanted no parts of it at all. I had a conversation with his dad, and his dad was like, listen, if he does not want to talk about it, you shouldn't talk about it. I'm not going to talk about, I don't know, he's like a typical Jamaican man who does not like to have that conversation. So he's like, listen, if he has any questions, he can come to me. He knows he can come to me, but I'm not talking about it. So we've actually not had the talk yet, honestly.
Oh, I've had that conversation. And I had it with my son at 10. To be honest, at 10. I had it with my son, the oldest, at 10. And I had it with the two oldest at he was 10 and he was 8. And I had the conversation because, they start to get, at 10, they start to grow hair in places and they start to do things. And I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation. They have a different conversation with their father, but they have another conversation with me. And the conversation basically went like this: you're getting older, you're gonna start liking girls, and whatever you decide you're gonna do, you're gonna be respectful. And to be honest, my first statement was, I'm too cute and I'm too young to be somebody's grandma. I don't want to be somebody's grandma. If we're keeping it honest, that's what I said. And then I went on to this is what you do, this is how you do, this is what, if your friends are doing it, don't do it. We had all those conversations. And they did look at me like, Mom, they got classes and stuff that they talk about this. I said, yeah, and I understand that you'll have those classes later on in life, but I don't want you to learn about sex from one of your friends.
Yes.
Who has no clue what they're talking about. because I in college I took a class about the biology of human sexuality, and they were like most kids when they did like a thing, they were having sex by the time they were 13. And I was like, wait, what? And they were introduced to certain things around 10 and 11. I'm like, wait, I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff when I was younger, but then again, they're bored.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to have these conversations before you have these other kinds of conversations with your friends who have no clue because they're getting their information from YouTube or from this person or that person. So this is what you do. This is how you do it. If you're going to do it, I would prefer that you did it. But if in fact you get in a situation where that may happen, this is how you take care of yourself and you take care of the person that you're deciding to do things with. But I prefer you did it until you got married. But boys are boys, and their friends are more influential than sometimes than us as parents. So plus I had brothers, so I know some things and I've seen some things. So I'm like, yeah, we gonna have a long conversation about some things. And then they have their father conversation. I'm like, this is what I said. You work off of that. And he's like, you did not tell them boys that. Yes, I did. And he goes and has those same conversations later on when they need him. But just making sure, like, keep it honest. When you have those conversations, make sure you keep it honest because these boys will look right through you, be like, I don't want to talk about it. And you'll be like, we have to talk about it because these are the things that can happen. Oh, I went hardcore. I even showed them all of the things that can happen to them if they decide to have do. I showed them every picture I could find of every kind of disease that was out there. And they was like, I'm never touching this. I was like, all right, we're good. It's called Scared Straight Mommy Edition. It was like, I'm not touching the girl. I'm good for a while. But like, yeah. But you got to be creative when it comes to them. You have to be creative and you have to have those very hard, difficult discussions.
Yeah.
And you rather have it come from you as the mommy because they trust you. We are the nurturers. We carry these children for 9 months. So make sure they're straightforward to the point.
Yeah, that's true. So for me, I had the talk. Before I had the talk, what I did, I went to the library and I got a book, a puberty book, and I have them at night. That was part of their routine. They like to read at night. So, okay, you're not going to read the book you want to read. This is the book I'm going to give you. This is going to be mandatory. You're going to read this before you go to bed. So they read it, and they didn't want to do it, but it was more so I forced them to. And they read it, and I'm like, if you have any question, ask me. But at one point, I realized that I'm like, I don't know if they're really reading it. So I took it on myself, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go through it together. And we were going through it together. And when they reached some, uncomfortable topic, they, I could see like Elijah's kind of like. I'm like, you know what? You ain't tired because you be up all night. So therefore, you ain't gonna act like you're tired right now. And Timothy's like, I'm like, wake up. Like, we're doing this. So then I was like, okay, you're gonna read this paragraph. I'm gonna read this paragraph. We're gonna go through it together because y'all are not falling asleep on me. But then I realized that okay, it's a force and they're uncomfortable. So what I started doing now, I started like asking like, do you see any girls that you like at school? And and Elisha's like, no, everything is no. And I'm like, what? You're not gonna
always
tell me
no.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not gonna tell me no. Because I know like I could tell you're going through puberty. So I know you're gonna see someone that you like. So no. So I'm not taking no for an answer. But so then I said to my husband, I'm like, why don't you have the talk? And he's like, I'm going to, but I realized that it's a year past and you still haven't had it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up back. So I went and I'm having a conversation like, do you know anything about sex? Blah, 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 blah. And it's always no. But then, we're like good investigators, mothers, where we could pick up stuff. We know when they're telling us something that's not true. And so I'm like, I just keep digging until I find what I want. And I'm like, boom. So then I said to her, I'm like, yep, I know you got a girlfriend because I see on your phone you just telling your friends about your girlfriend and her name. So you're like, so who is your girlfriend? I'm like, you want me to come to your school? Because because at the time the school that he was going to, everyone knows us. Everyone knows we are everything at that school. So everyone knows us. The teachers know us. And at this point, their father was working at the school. So I'm like, so then he's giving them the guilt trip, like, listen, I could go to your friends because I know your friends, and your friends are cool with me. And he's like, I could ask your friends and they'll tell me. So he's like, no, I'll tell you who it is. So he told that. So we're like, okay, great. So long story short, like he's telling us all these things about, oh yeah, I like this girl and she likes me, blah, blah, stuff like that. But they're so uncomfortable when it comes to that topic. Like I could tell, like he don't want to talk about it. It's like he want nothing to do with the conversation. But it's happening. They're talking. They're thinking about things. So I remember one time, because the phone, you find whatever you want to find in the phone. So we check in the phone and we like, see, oh, you like her, like you guys are talking about like, body parts. Or I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I told his dad, and his dad was like, his dad he had a Ninja Turtle, stuffed Ninja Turtle, and his dad gave it to him. His dad was like, you're gonna wake up in the morning, you're gonna change his diaper, you're gonna give it bath, you're gonna carry it to school with you. And this brother started like, he would put on his alarm at like 2 a.m, and he would hear a baby on the alarm crying, and he would go and wake him up like, you don't hear your baby crying? What happened when you start thinking about girls and stuff and doing stuff, like this is what happened. When you get somebody pregnant, it's your responsibility. Like you're gonna wake up in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, the baby's crying. Get up, it's hungry. Like I was like, you're doing the most right now. But that's his father. But me, I was like, just sitting down and talking is enough for me. And just know like, okay, I'm gonna monitor everything that you're doing. Like the phone, they have different stuff now that you could have parent control where you could see things. Because again, you guys talk about friends and influence. Like I've seen where they will listen to their friends more than they listen to you. It doesn't matter how much you're like trying to be involved and trying to talk to them. Like their friends seem like they have more influence over the things that they do and stuff. So it's just to always like making sure that you are present and making sure that like you're there where you could monitor everything that they're doing. But I think that talk should happen. And I know we talk about age, or we talk about everything else other than like the age. But I think the age that it should happen is as early as I want to say like maybe, I mean, Carrie Ann says 7, but for me, I did it at like 10. That's when I had that talk. They were 10 years old when I had the talk. But it was very uncomfortable. But even before that, I know that like friends was already starting talking to, them about things. And because you don't know the household that these kids are coming out of. You don't know what they're exposed to from what they're not exposed to. And this is going to bring us into another topic. But for me, I feel like it's important for the mothers to talk to the sons about it, because as fathers, some fathers are not comfortable talking to their children about it or their sons about it. So I feel like as mothers, we're gonna just, because that's what I did. I was like, okay, you're taking forever, and I need this to be done like tomorrow. So I'm gonna do it. And I take that first step, and as I took the first step, he was able to follow right behind me. So I think mothers should definitely take that first step. If you have a father, if the fathers are like, okay, yes, I'm gonna do it, but if you don't see them doing it, yeah, just go ahead and do it. So the next question, Nick, I have a follow-up questions with this. So if you as a mother realize or notice that your child is into like or been exposed to like porn, as mothers, what are some of the things that you would do to, how would you discipline your son or your sons, or what are some of the things that you would do to help them through that stage of being exposed to it?
Who wants to take the first step?
Huh?
Someone can go ahead of me. I'm thinking.
You want me to go ahead? I'll go ahead. I don't mind. You want to go ahead? Go ahead, Farrah.
No, I was gonna say that could be an opportunity to have a healthy conversation, because if they're at a certain age and they start looking at that stuff, obviously they're curious about something. They heard about it. They're curious. So it should be an opportunity to have a healthy conversation about that kind of stuff, and explain anything or answer any questions that they have, or they may not want to ask any questions because it's uncomfortable for them, but it should be an opportunity for you to give good information. I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think I would punish per se, because I believe that was a part of your question. I don't think it would be a punishment after I see it for the first time, but if it's an ongoing thing, then maybe a punishment can come up, but it should be an opportunity for a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely a conversation. It's a teachable moment. It's definitely a teachable moment. And I'm asking, where did you find it? And because I've actually had an experience with one of my sons I was like, what are you doing? And I was like, why are you watching this? What are you doing? He was like, no. He was like so embarrassed by it. It was like, oh. I made light of it. I kind of joked about it, like, oh, is that what we're watching? This is very educational. And he like turned it off. He was like, oh my God. No, you're not, oh my God. And I've never caught him again watching it. But like, we had that conversation when I did, but he was older. Like it was my youngest, and he was like, it was actually, I think last year or something. But now it's like, every time I walked in on him, I'm like, is he what? And he was doing it on his phone. And I was like, what are you watching? And I was like, oh. And it's like, okay, I understand, you have these urges as a young man, and that's normal. But there's certain things that just, I don't want to know. I understand you're watching it, and I understand, like, for you, this might be your way of not going out there and doing other things, but don't let me see it. I don't want to see it. And why is this going on? Do you have some kind of feelings towards somebody? Is your friends doing this? Is this and then he had a call. I'm like, I talked to his father. I'm like, yo, he's watching such and such. And he was like, that's a boy thing. And I'm like, dude, you need to have that conversation with your son. And, they had their little man talk or whatever. But as a mother, I was like horrified, like, what's going on at first? And whatever happened with him and his father, I took that uncomfortable conversation. I let him know I was uncomfortable with it, and I passed it on to his father, like, because I can only do so much as a mother and as a female. Like, there's a lot I can do, but to hear it from his father means a lot more. So having him on board and feeling like I feel one way about it, and his father might feel another way about it. But he can have that conversation on a different scale than I can as a mother, because for us, it's like we never want to disappoint our mother. It's always, especially our sons, that's the one thing that they don't want to do. They don't want to, in a sense, disappoint their mothers, because they feel like we are their providers. We are the people who, at the end of the day, we're their number one being. So they don't want to disappoint us. So in that instance, it was like, oh, did I just disappoint her? How does she look at me now? Mm-hmm. How is she going to look at me now? What is she going to think of me now? So I told him how I felt about it, and then I passed it on to his father so he can have those more in-depth male conversations. As far as punishment, let him let your dad deal with that whole punishment part. I don't want to, no parts of that part. You deal with your dad at that point.
You know, I because I'm a Christian. I always kind of put it towards like a biblical principle, where I'm like, how do you think, or what does the Bible say about certain things, or how do you think God would look at you for that? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to start something where it's going to become addictive. And you don't want to start something where you don't know where it's going to take you. Because a lot of times, and just being in the school system and seeing the, kids are so young, like the stuff that they talk about and the stuff that they've been exposed to, it's kind of like those things can really damage something inside of their brain, and the way they think and the way they view women and the way they view when they're at the age and ready to, to have sex. What are they going to think? Because most times, and I heard this, I was watching something and I heard this, it was a counsel, I think he was a therapist, and he was talking about it, and he was saying that, it seemed like it's crazy, because it's so crazy how what he was saying was that, like, there's so many boys at such an early age. It's as if it's like normal. That's their go-to. And he's like, when it comes to a boy, he's like, it's not unusual, my thing keep falling out. He's like, it's not unusual for a boy to actually go there and start watching porn and stuff like that. But I think the age is a big, factor. Like, what age are you doing this? And it's sad to say that you send your children to school and you don't know what they're being exposed to. You don't know who is going to come and show them what. And, and when you think about it, it's like they're curious. So they want to know, like, oh, wait, what? And before you know it, like they're stuck or whatever the case may be. But I feel like as mothers, it's our job to, like, with love, like everyone, pretty much says, like, do it with love. Go to them, talk to them, find out, okay, what's going on? Where did this come from? How does this make you feel? And most time they're gonna be like, oh, it makes me feel good, or I like this, or whatever like that. But they're trying to develop a sense of woman, a sense of themselves. And also what I heard the guy was saying, he's like, so many times in their head, they're like, oh, this is what a woman should look like. This is how a woman's breast should look. This is how a man's thing should look. And it's like, no, they kind of make everything look bigger. But you get your wife, and you're like trying to find your wife, and you're like, wait, how come I can't find nobody that looked like that I was watching? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and they keep searching because they're looking, whatever the picture that was painted in their head from what they were watching, that's what they're always going to try to look for in a woman. And because it's not natural, they're always going to want to search. Like, okay, I'm trying to find a woman like what I saw when I was watching that. And they're never going to find it unless there's some kind of stuff been done, like plastic surgery or whatever. It's like, you're not going to find that plumpness, and you're not going to find that, like,
that unrealistic woman. That unrealistic.
Or and he was also saying, I was like, wow, this guy is deep. And he was really talking to teenagers, and he was saying, like, listen, especially for the guys, the boys, they're gonna think something is wrong with them because they're looking for their private to look a certain way, and they can never find it, because guess what? Whatever they did to make you look like that, it's not real.
Yes.
So before you know it, they're saying, okay, what's wrong with me? I gotta go take something because I need that. I need it to look like this, and it's just not happening. It's like they have to be careful, and as mothers, we have to let them know. And when I talk to my kids, I'm very, right now, I'm very I'm trying not to be too, graphic, but when I talk to my kids, I'm more so like, listen, like, there's stuff out there or there's things on TV that and I don't watch certain things with them. I don't allow them to watch certain things. I feel like I shelter them a lot, but I'm learning as far as when I say shelter, like when you're at the age to know things or to do things, yes, but the age that you are now, I don't feel like it's an age for you to be engaged in, watching certain things or seeing certain things or hearing about certain things. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to protect your innocency as much as I can. So, yeah, that's what I
As
have.
everybody said, it's definitely a teaching moment. And because even my 5-year-old, this morning I was cleaning and there was a business card that my husband got from somebody for a photography. So there's a picture on it with a couple at their wedding kissing. And it was like, here, mommy. I'm like, why are you covering your face? So, even at 5, they really understand certain things and know what it is that they shouldn't look at. And so when the time comes, then I know that it will be a teaching moment for me to say, okay, then. And as my Shika said that I'll go the biblical way because I really wouldn't know what else to tell them because if it is that you try to force them to say, all right, then you should not do this, they're going to want to know why.
And they're
So
going to do it.
you train them to say, all right, then what it is that the Bible would say about this, then they would see it in another light to say, okay, then God wouldn't be pleased with this. So that's a reason for me not to do it. But to force it on them to say, all right, this is wrong and all of that, that's something that growing up I know that that's not the way to go about raising your sons or even your daughter. So definitely.
Yeah, that's true. Because I look at myself and I'm like, I'm not a boy, but at the same time, I feel like it goes for both female, girls and boys to say, like, if your parents tell you not to do the thing and you're curious, you're gonna want to know why. You're gonna do it anyways. And I know for me, like, I'm like, tell me, you better talk to me. Tell me why. Like, don't just tell me not to, because I'm curious and I'm gonna want to go and find out why. And then you find out like, oh, that's why they were telling me not to do that. But so you have to explain, like nowadays with these children, you have to explain things and you have to explain it in love, because if you don't, they're like, okay, I can't come to you, I can't talk to you about nothing, and I'm just gonna listen to my friends and I'm gonna just do whatever I want to do, so yeah. I don't know, but anybody have anything else that they want to say?
Like what you said, where you said, like, you explained it and you said, like, they're going to get it from their friends. Sometimes if you pull that friend in, like you said, knowing who your child's around and having them, because your child's going to be like, no, because my mom said this and this is how he, and they'll be like, no, my mom didn't say. He's like, come on, and talk to their friends as well. Like, look, this is what I expect of my child, and this is like where I'm coming from, and this is how, especially with our sons. I mean, when my son went from a charter school where he was very, as you would say, sheltered. Like, there were certain things he did and certain things that he didn't do in high school. And then he was like, I don't want to be here. I want to do this instead. And at first I was like, no, I don't know if I want you to be exposed to certain things. And I let him. And then when he started, he was still, he got to change, he got to wear his own clothes, so he got to get his identity. And then he tried to be that person that I was like, okay. And I had to watch how he interacted with other young men. And then certain times when young men would come around, because I'm like, I want to see who you're hanging out with, because I always knew all of the parents of the other children who he was always with. I knew his friends knew me. We had like a mother thing where like, call your mother so she knows you're here with him. And if he was with them, call your mother so that they know you're here. And so we had this like phone call amongst mothers. So then when he went to this new school, it was like, all right, I need to know these people, who their mother are, who their parents are, who their father is, who this is that. And he had this set group who he, as an adult, is still friends with. And it was always when they were in my house, there were certain rules if you're here, make sure your mother knows you're here. I would feed them or whatever. And these are the same young men that at first, they was worried about them not graduating because at the time my um cousin was the assistant principal, and she was like, yeah, there's this, and I would ask them every day, did you do this at school? What did you do? Da 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 da. And we would have these conversations, and I was like, look, y'all are gonna graduate, y'all are gonna do this, and like our family kind of encompassed them and their families, and we worked hard to make sure that these young black men, let me rephrase that, young men of color, because they were all not black. Some of them were Spanish, some of them were Indian, like making sure like they had those same conversations, like having these conversations, because your conversation with your child might inflict love, and that same love you have for your child might give that same kid that may not have all of the love that he's getting from his parents who's doing their best. You share that love because you never know. And as a result, they're still friends. They all graduated and they're all in college and they still have those conversations. So having those conversations not only with your child, but your child's friends can impact how your child ends up, along the way. Your feelings about certain things might not be their feelings, but they'll listen because you're not their parent. That you're somebody else's parent. And sometimes we don't realize that. Like we tell our child, yeah, da 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 da, you need to do this. And it takes you talking to their friends and having those same conversations. And they'll be like, yeah, your mom's cool. Or your mom's best. Yeah, your mom's strict. So we're not going to do certain things. But always being open to having those conversations with not just your own child, but their friends as well. Because you'll get that same respect as they would have for their own mothers or their own fathers if they're like single fathers or, single mothers. Same respect. And it impacts not just your child's life, but it may impact their friend's life, which will later on impact everybody's life in society as a whole. So we sometimes we forget about those types of things.
Yeah, that's deep. That's true. And one of the things that I heard from this was an adult, I was talking to, and it was very cool. It was very cool. So he was just sharing some stuff, and I was like asking questions, and I did ask about like if you notice that your child, like what I would ask him, like, okay, as a young guy, he was in his 20s, like 24, something like that, and I'm like, as a young guy, like, did you ever is porn ever a thing that you were into as a kid? He's like, what? Every boy, like, what? We're men, like we're boys. I'm boys, and I'm thinking like, what? He's like, listen, Sheikah. He's like, you need to get it together. I'm like, listen. I'm like, I'm not American. I'm Jamaican. So my view is a little different because he's American. And he's like, get it together. Like every kid know about porn. I'm like, what? I'm like, he's like, listen, if they go to school, they know about porn. I was like, oh my. So I started thinking about my kids. I was like, oh my gosh. And I think that's when I came home and I was just like having conversations and asking like, have your friends ever been? And Timothy's kind of like, what is that? I'm like, okay, never mind. Like, I'm like, never mind. So, but Elisha, on the other hand, he knew about it, and I was like, okay. So as I'm talking like as a Christian, I feel like sometimes we seem to be too holy and not realize, listen, yes, we're Christian, but our children they're around real people, real kids who are going through real things, and they're not exempt from everything that's going around them.
Yes.
So you can't be like, oh, I'm gonna pray this out of them, or I'm gonna pray that God. Like, no, you gotta come down to earth and sit with your children and talk to them about these things because they're real, and your children are sometimes struggling, and you don't even know that they're struggling because they may get dressed and go to church every day. You don't realize that they are struggling with porn. So I feel like it was a good question to have on this, topic because it's so real, and I didn't realize it until I've been hearing stuff, and even within school, hearing the boys and seeing the stuff that they talk about. And when I hear these things, like I was watching the counselor talking about these things, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. And I'm raising boys, so it's important for me to know that it's something that it seems, and it's not just boys, but girls do it too. But it seems like boys are more gravitating to this than girls are. So it's just to know how to talk to them and what to say to them and how to get them to know that it's not something that you want to continue to do or get too indulged with, because it could really have a lasting impact on you and the way you view yourself and others. So, but I have a question for Satia. This is gonna be our last question. But the reason why, Satia, I have this question for you because you have an adult son, and you also have like 18 and then 17. So you kind of like you got a lot of experience in this. So what would be an advice or that you would give to like us or anybody else that's watching that have a teenage son or about to have a teenager? Eventually, Kerry, your kids are going to be teenagers, so that have teenage sons. Like, how do you, like, they go into the puberty, they like 1 minute they want to talk, the next minute they don't want to talk. What, like, you're like, okay, what happened? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to like get you help? Like, what's going on with you? Like, and I know, like, 'cause right now my oldest son, he goes through this different stages where sometimes I'm like, are you okay? Because he's so quiet. And other times I'm like, what's on your mind? Talk to me. Oh, nothing. And it's always nothing. It's always, I'm good or whatever. So as a mom, you kind of sometimes worry because you're like, is everything okay? Or, and it seemed like it's something they don't want to talk about or what, but I know like their body's changing, or they may not understand certain things, and especially with everything that's going on in society, with police brutality and everything that's happening around them. Like, I remember in the summertime, my husband and I, we have the boys watching Eyes on the Prize. It's a series, and they were watching it, and I remember there was one time Elisha had a breakdown and he was crying. I'm like, what's wrong? And it's like he didn't know how to explain himself. But I think it was just a lot seen about like all this, the racial injustice that was going on, and that's happening with Black men, in particular. And it was starting to affect him, and I didn't even know how to help him, but just to talk to him. But like, you know what? And that's all I know to say. Like, God will protect you. Like, you don't have to worry. Like, you can live in this society and don't have to go through those things because you have God on your side. But that's the only thing I knew to say to him. And like, you're gonna be fine. Like, you just have to keep your head on your body, go to school, do what you do, and just try to not be in a situation where you're coming to a contact with someone who is racist or whatever. But sometimes you can be minding your business and stuff happens. So it's like, what do you do? So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, Satia, but
you're throwing everything at me but the kisses thing. So with my oldest was my experimental child. So I learned a lot from him, and then I realized none of it applies to the second oldest, because every single child is completely different. So what might work for one does not always work for the second or the third, or however many sons you have along the way. So with my oldest, because he was just, for him, he was always just so angry. He would just be angry, and I would talk him through things, because I had him at a sense where he would do things and he wouldn't think about it. So I had to have a lot of conversations with him and be like, think about, before you do things, think about their cause, what's causing you to feel this way, and how you're going to react, because your reactions are going to have repercussions behind everything that you do. So even And over time, his aggression has gone down because he thinks about things like, but it was something that I had to instill even when he was little. So having those, being able and being open to conversations as much as they're uncomfortable as they are with your son, because there's things that sometimes my son will tell me that he won't tell his father because he's like, Mom, I need your help with such and such. Or, Mom, I have, like, even when it came to girls, I'm like, you got a girlfriend? Like you said, they get uncomfortable. Like, no, I ain't got no girl. I'm like, there's some little girl that you like. And they'll be like, no, 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 blah, blah, no, I don't like her. And with my oldest, it was like, yeah, I like this girl. This is her. I was like, are you being respectful with her? How are you interacting with her? And I always tell him, you're going to have disagreements when you decide to have a girlfriend. And how you react is very important, especially in this day and age, because you are male, because you are Black, and under any certain terms, that your civil liberties can be taken away based on how you react to a situation. So always think before you act. And if you're going to get in a relationship with a young lady, remember, you never put your hands on her. And this is something, because that's somebody's future mother, and that's someone's sister and someone's daughter. And you wouldn't want no one to do that to your sister, would you? No. Would you want anyone to do that to me? No. Would you want that if later down the line you had a daughter? Would you want them to treat them like you would treat myself, your sister, or someday your daughter? So think about that when they get into relationships. And as far as friends, let me tell you what I did when it came to friends and being out there in the public. So when they would have friends over, I would act crazy. I would do things, I would yell about things that just wasn't even worth yelling about, like a dish in the sink. Why is there a dish in the sink? So their friends were like, your mom's crazy. What's wrong with your mother? She's not. And so when he was in high school, one of his friends who I thought was, I knew the mother, I knew the parents, and I thought, he was a good kid. There was a situation, and he was like, your mother's crazy. I do not want to deal with her. And because I made that known, like, don't do anything crazy, because I'm a little bit not all there. I don't want him in those situations. So when there was a situation that would arise, if there were one of his friends was ever in those types of situations, they'd be like, you need to go home because your mother's crazy and I'm not having her come looking for you. And it got him out of certain situations where he would be like, because it's all about, just like it's for women, for men, it's about their pride and their self-esteem. They don't want to look like, I'm this, or I'm one way, or I'm not like this big, strong soldier type dude. They all want to feel like, they have a status. They want that status. So making sure that they keep that status and they put it on me. My mom's crazy. I'm not going to do this. So having those kinds of open relationships with your son, just like they would have with their fathers, is very important. And they'll have those throughout their entire life. Like, I know, like, there's conversations that I've had with my brothers that, like, sometimes it's like, your mom, as crazy and as our life was growing up, they had certain, conversations with my mother. And then, like, I wanted to make sure that, my brothers and my sons, like, we had those same kind of relationships. Like, you have something that you want to talk about that you don't really feel comfortable talking to your father about, come to me, talk to me. So just making sure, like, but they know mom don't play them games, but still have, those kind of those open conversations and those trustful open conversations where I can say this to my mother and she's going to hold that and understand that it's a conversation between me and my mother. And I have trust in her that she's going to make a good decision for me or give me the correct advice to get out of a situation or to put myself into a situation. So just making sure that you have those open conversations with your son and that those trustworthy conversations. Like, even though you don't feel comfortable, and there's gonna be some uncomfortable ones. Like, Ma, I really like this girl, and you might not like her, because there's a few that my oldest, I'm like, oh, she's kind of, you know. But saying I can say it, but he's still gonna like this person, but he has to figure it out for himself. But like, again, just having those open conversations and always having those open, trustworthy. Sometimes they might be confidential, and not judging right away. Like, we all have our own internal judgment of what we think is right and wrong, but sometimes just being able to listen to our son helps a lot. And then thinking about it, because you're going to think about it later, because as mothers we do, and then be like, I can't believe he would say that. I can't believe he would do that. Oh my God. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Why would he do this? Why would he do this? And then, but still being able to be like, at that moment in time when they're coming to you and they're needing you, because just saying, like, I understand
Just
what you're saying. I
Mhm.
hear what you're saying, and just being there. That's one of the most important things, if nothing else. Just being there to have that conversation with your sons at any age, whether it's about that conversation about, oh, my friend at school took my toy and he made me upset. Oh, why he make you upset, babe? What happened? Those
Just
conversations, where
having
it gets older,
conversation. Mm.
conversations, just being able to have those conversations with your son is like the greatest and the best thing you can have.
Wow.
And you'll have those conversations forever. He might come to his dad on his wedding day and talk to his dad, but he's gonna come to his mom and be like, Mom, I'm having cold. This is going on, and I'm feeling like this, and you, as moms, we always gotta bring them down. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to feel this way. But yeah, just having those open conversations. Like you said, he's like, nothing, Mom, nothing, Mom. But eventually it'll become to a time where he's like, Mom, I like this girl, and I don't know if she likes me, and like, how do you feel about me going and asking such and such if we can go to this party or this dance? Mom, do you feel like it's okay, or is it not okay? Or like, as they get older, they'll have those conversations, and you want to just be
Yeah.
open to it.
Yeah. So I like that. Again, open communication is everything. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you guys. This is hopefully, like, we've learned some things and you will be able to take away some things, and people who are watching will be able to take some things away, because it's not easy. It's not easy being moms. It's not easy raising boys. It comes with a lot of challenges that we're not cut out for, especially if it's our first go around. It's like they didn't come with a handbook to say this is what you should do when they start acting like this. So it's all really, you have to do it all in love, and that's what I've been hearing. So this is awesome. So thank you guys so much for coming on to the podcast. We appreciate you guys. And in everything, remember that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So we need to make sure that we always speak life.
Life.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless